Cafe Oleh. My name is Jay. And here at Cafe Oleh with Nefesh B'Nefesh, we go over the everyday Hebrew you need here in Israel to succeed, whether that's keeping up with the news, going grocery shopping and reading nutritional labels, reading and paying your bills, going on an interview, going on a date, striking up a conversation, lodging a complaint, all the everyday language we use in our respective countries of origin, except here in Israel in modern Hebrew. As always, we want to hear from you what topics you'd like us to cover. If you have yet to check out our playlist on youtube.com, you can see all of our previous lessons. Just go to youtube.com and type in Cafe Oleh or Nefesh B'Nefesh, and you'll see all of our previous lessons there, along with the vocabulary list that goes with them. We're always open to new ideas for topics to cover in this class. Please write us either here in the chat or at hebrew@nbn.org.il. That's hebrew@nbn.org.il. This lesson will go up on YouTube in the next few days, along with the spreadsheet that goes with it. You'll also get it by email if you've signed up for us and are joining us live on Zoom. If you're joining us live on Zoom, you are welcome to send in questions related to this specific class in the Q&A box. Everything else, questions, comments, requests for future classes, please write in the chat. So this week is a lot going on, as always, in Israel. Tonight is Lag BaOmer, which has its own customs and traditions. Not so much a whole hour's worth of class, but those of you who are celebrating tonight, please be careful around your midura, your log fire, if that's how you choose to celebrate tonight. It is also VE Day, which is being celebrated across the region. But this week is also an important celebration in Israel and across the region. May not be so obvious to some of you, but it will be after this class, which is Eurovision. Eurovision is an annual contest among members of the European Broadcasting Union that has been going on now since the 1950s. This is Israel's 50th anniversary of participating in it. And tonight we're going to delve into Israeli culture, because as I often talk about, you can't understand a language until you also understand the context in which it's used. And especially when it comes to modern Israel, and its participation in the larger world, right? That's the tug and pull of Zionism to be a normal state like everyone else and to be a Jewish state. And how do you do both at the same time? Eurovision is a great example. We're going to go into some classic examples of Israel's participation in the contest to see that tension come alive on a global stage. Eurovision is watched by upwards of 500, 600 million people around the world. Israel is a member of the European Broadcasting Union because it is in the Mediterranean. All countries in the Mediterranean are a part of it, as well as affiliate members around the world, including, yes, the United States. Australia is also, and Australia is one of the newest non-European countries to participate in it. Israel was the first in 1973. I want to go into some classic examples, but just to give a little background, especially those of you who've heard of Eurovision before, perhaps why it's so important in Israel. We're going to get into that with each of the entries that we're going to look at through the years. But just really quick, it is a TV show. It takes place live. It used to be a live orchestrated show. It's now a playback, meaning that there's music that's pre-recorded, but the vocals are live. The rules are pretty simple, up to 3 minutes per song, no more than 6 people on the stage. You can sing in any language you want. It used to be a requirement you had to sing in your native language. That's no longer the case. Israel sang in Hebrew up until, or at least part of the song was in Hebrew up until only 8 years ago. So that's really important. All the songs we're looking at tonight, not only placed very high, but also are all in Hebrew. So it helps us obviously in learning Hebrew together. One last thing, the winner not only gets a trophy and gets to sing their song again at the end of the night, they also host the following year's contest. Israel has won 4 times. It has hosted 3 of those times. We can talk a little bit about why that is the case. Israel first won 1978 with the song Abani B. Abani B is in Hebrew known as Sfat Habet, is the slang, sort of like children's tongue that was used to write the chorus of the song. In English, you can think of Abi Dhabi or Pig Latin as a similar type of kids sort of code language. It won 1978. It won the next year with the song Hallelujah. I'm sure many of you also know that song as well. Many of Israel's entry songs have become classics in Israeli culture. By the way, Eurovision in general is a classic throughout the years. Some of you may think of it or not know much of it, but what you do is sort of kitsch and camp. You probably all know one of the most famous songs to come out of Eurovision in the 1950s or 60s, I forget which year it was, the Italian entry Volare. If you thought Volare was a song penned by Dean Martin, you are sorely mistaken. It was indeed a Eurovision entry and winner. So this has global ramifications of how many people watch it. So think about that as we're going through these entries that are sung in Hebrew to a live audience across Europe and around the world. I want to jump right into our first example. What we're going to do with as many songs as we can tonight is go through the lyrics together, and we're going to translate it together, and then we're going to listen to it performed, either live. We're going to listen to it live as it was performed. So let me pull up our lyrics and our words for tonight. So as always, Hebrew is in the middle column, transliteration on the right, English on the left. You are welcome to screenshot. You are welcome to old school pen and paper, but you will all get a copy of these words and, in fact, lyrics. So you can sing along at your own leisure tonight and, well, in the next few days and in the future. So just a little bit of background. Like I said, Eurovision is how we say it in Israel, Eurovision or Eurovision in English. The night, by the way, is conducted in both English and French. You'll hear the MCs speak in both English and French, owing to the number of English and French speakers across Europe, which gets a little odd at some times. All of a sudden they bust into French, speaking in English most of the night. When each country announces who they give their points to in the grand finale, they'll announce them both in English and in French. And the French term for the highest amount of points a country can give to another country, which is 12 points in English, 12 points, is sort of becomes a running joke, because you just all of a sudden will hear 12 points. It becomes like, instead of saying 100 or 100% in Hebrew, 100%, you can say 12 points in a very slang way. Anyways, Eurovision, this is how we spell it and how we say it in Hebrew. We talked about this a few weeks ago. Song contests and communal singing is nothing new to Israel. One of the reasons why it was important for Israel to participate was not just to be part of a regional group and to be part of something larger than just itself, also because of the embargo countries in the Middle East put on Israel from participating in regional activities for so many years. But also, communal sing-alongs are very much part of our cultural DNA as Israelis. We talked the other week about Shira B'Tzibur, right? When we were talking about Yom HaZikaron, Israel's Memorial Day, and Yom Ha'atzmaut, Independence Day, we talked about Shira B'Tzibur. It's a important cultural phenomenon that takes place from the original Zionist pioneers at the end of the 19th century, where you would literally sit around a campfire, like one would do perhaps tonight on Lag BaOmer, and sing songs, whether they were religious songs, mostly secular songs, new songs being written by poets and other people that became canon, classics in Israeli culture. You can go on YouTube and see some of these from the 70s and 80s. People have the song sheets in front of them and they're singing their hearts out. Think of it like communal karaoke. We do this in good times. We do this in bad times. It's an institution in Israel. And we have lots of programs, not just in person, but also on TV and on radio that also exemplify this cultural trend that Eurovision just happened to be very similar to. Right, so these are the names in row 4 of various television and radio programs throughout Israel's history that have either existed on their own or have served as the contest within Israel to elect its representative to that year's Eurovision. Every country elects a representative to the annual contest. Some of these are very famous. Italy has the San Remo Festival. Sweden's is also very popular around the world, not just within Sweden. Israel, we've had many different types of these. One of them that used to be around for many years was called Festival HaZemer HaIvri, the Hebrew Song Festival. For many years, and the winner would go on to represent Israel in the Eurovision, but also be a national hero. For many years, then we built a program just for Eurovision called Kedam Eurovision, and then which Kedam simply means pre. Kochav Nolad, A Star is Born, was one of our original reality shows in Israel. It was before American Idol and X Factor and all those other things, which then became a Kochav Haba, The Next Star. These are all various shows that, yes, they're all about Eurovision ultimately, but they're also about singing classic songs and new songs together as an audience, whether you're in the studio or at home. We're going to jump to 1983. 1983, Israel is represented by Ofra Haza. Ofra Haza is already a huge star in Israel, singing primarily pop songs. She has this is her debut on the global stage. And several years after this, she becomes a huge international hit with a rendering of a 18th century Yemenite Jewish psalm hymn called Imni Nalu. Must hear, must listen to, must know with regards to Israeli cultural literacy. But anyways, she sings in 1983 this song called Chai. Chai means alive, right? And she's singing it in where she, as it says here on row 6, she's singing it in 1983 in Munich, West Germany. Okay, 1983, 11 years after the terrorist attack at the Olympics that took place in Munich, and several decades after the Shoah, after the Holocaust. Keep that in mind, as did the writer of the song, Ehud Manor. Ehud Manor is probably Israel's most prolific songwriter. You can't, all of you know at least a handful of songs that were written by Ehud Manor. Some of the absolute classics are written by him, from children's songs to adults. This is one of them, Chai. And so Ehud Manor is very much aware of where they are. 1983, it's Munich, it's a little bit after the Olympics. It's certainly, Germany is not lost on them, in Southwest Germany even more. So listen to these lyrics, and we're going to translate them together as I read them, and then we're going to listen to the live performance. Okay, row 7. Shimu achai ani od chai. Okay, as you see here, Hebrew is in the middle with the dots and bars that indicate vowels. Transliteration on the right, we're going to translate together. Shimu achai ani od chai. Shimu is the plural command form of the verb lishmoa, to listen. Achai, my brothers, but also my siblings, right? Shimu achai, listen, my brothers. Ani od chai, I am still chai, alive. Okay, I am still alive. Ushte einai, now on the next line, ushte einai od nisaot laor. Ushte einai, shte is the abbreviation when we use it before a noun. For shtaim, 2. Ushte einai, my eyes. Okay, einaim sheli is also einai. So, and my 2 eyes, od nisaot laor, are still carried up to the light. Nisa is the passive form of the verb laset, to carry. So to be carried or to be lifted up. Laor, or light. And my 2 eyes are still lifted up to the light. Okay, already you're hearing something. Shim'u achai ani od chai. Listen, my brothers, I'm still alive. Ofra Haza, granted from Yemenite Jewish background, but a Jewish woman in 1983 in Munich singing Shim'u achai. The first word out of her mouth is Shim'u, like Shma, listen, hear. Ani od chai, I am still alive. Okay, the symbolism shouldn't be lost on any of us here with these words. Rabim chochai ach gam prachai. Rabim, many, Chochai, choach, with a chet, right? A very lovely sounding word is a lot what it is. It's a type of plant with a lot of thorns. Chochai, my thorns. Okay, so many are my thorns, or my thorns are many. I'm going to write many are my thorns because this is poetic Hebrew. It's song lyrical Hebrew. We need to think a little bit more poetically here about Hebrew. Hebrew can be a very poetic language, as those of you who are more familiar with Tanakh, with the Bible and so forth know, as well as with Hebrew poetry. This is no less of an example. Many are my thorns. Ach gam prachai. Ach, but, gam, also, prachai, my flowers. But so are my flowers. Okay. Many are my thorns, but so are my flowers. Okay. I have a lot of thorns, but I also have a lot of flowers. I have something good. I have something bad. I have something good. Ulifanai, and before me, shanim rabot mispor. Shanim, years. Rabot mispor is an expression, countless. Rabot, rabim means many, like we just had that word rabim chochai. Rabot is the feminine version, right? So many. Mispor comes from the verb to count. Lispor is to count. Lisaper, which many of you also know, has the same root, the same shoresh, the same three letters, samech pe resh, which means to tell. But lispor, that specific formation, means to count. And so, and before me are countless years, and countless years. Before me are countless years. Okay, countless in number. You could translate it to. Okay, one of the things you're hearing a lot in this song, again, Ehud Manor is a very clever, smart, experienced songwriter. So you're hearing it rhyming, even if you can't see it as it's being written out. The way I transcribed it, you're hearing a lot of the end of words with I, right? I, like in the word chai, alive. But I also comes as a suffix to words, meaning my plural, right? Instead of saying einaim sheli, my eyes, we can say einai. Just like you have achai. Instead of saying ha'achim sheli, my brothers or my siblings, achai is those two words combined. And so it's rhyming with chai, which is not a normal sound in Hebrew, that I sound, but it's keeping the song at a certain tempo as well. When you hear it, it sounds even more in step, but that I, so it's all a rhyming song. Okay, and here's the bit right before the chorus. It goes to another verse, and then the chorus itself. Ani shoel umitpalel. I ask, ani shoel, umitpalel, and I pray. Tov shelo avda od hatikva. Okay, bells should be going off in your head, folks. You know this line. You've heard this line many times before. It's being sung 1983 in Munich in front of millions and millions of Europeans and people around the world. Tov shelo avda od hatikva. It's good that shelo, that not avda od hatikva, that hope is not yet lost. This is the line from Hatikva. Od lo avda tikvatenu. Our hope is not yet lost. Right? Ehud Manor and Ofra Haza take that line from our national anthem, which had already been sung for decades before Israel came into existence, and turned it into a lyric for this song. Tov shelo avda od hatikva. It's good that our hope is not yet lost. Our hope is not yet lost. Okay, and then one more verse before we get to the chorus. Over mizmor midor ledor. Over passes. Mizmor is a one way we can say song, but it's also a psalm. Mizmor le David. Those of you who are familiar with the book of Tehillim, the book of Psalms in Hebrew in the Tanakh, Mizmor is often used as psalm. So we can think of it as a religious song or we can think of it as a song, however you want to recognize. Mizmor comes weighted with some history to it, as well as religion. So a song passes midor ledor, from generation to generation. Okay. A song passes from generation to generation. Kema'ayan me'az ve'ad olam. Kema'ayan, like a spring, me'az uve'ad olam. Me'az means since, ve'ad olam is an expression. This means from now and forever, from eternally. Me'az uve'ad olam, from here to eternity, or from past to the future, for all time. Like a spring, like an eternal spring is one way we can translate this, right? Eternal spring. Over mizmor midor ledor kema'ayan me'az ve'ad olam, right? So just as that spring flows from time immemorial, so does this song that we're singing. What is the song? It then repeats, ani sho'el u'mitpalel, tov shelo avda et hatikva. It sings again, I ask and I pray. It's good that our hope is not yet lost. Now comes the chorus. Chai, 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 ken ani od chai. Alive, alive, alive. Yes, ken ani od chai. I am still alive. Okay. Alive, alive, alive. Yes, I am still alive. Row 22. Ze hashir shesaba shar etmol le'aba vehayom ani. Okay. Ze hashir, this is the song, right? That mizmor we talked about, that got passed from generation to generation. This is the song, meaning chai, chai, chai. Also, by the way, it's pulling in all the different words together. This is the song, Ze hashir shesaba shar etmol le'aba. Shesaba shar, Saba grandfather, shar sang etmol yesterday, le'aba, to dad. This is a song that grandpa sang yesterday to dad. Vehayom ani, and today it's me singing. Right? Ze hashir shesaba shar etmol le'aba vehayom ani. This is the song that grandpa sang yesterday to dad, and now it's my turn. And now I'm singing the song, right? Midor ledor, from generation to generation. Ani od chai, 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 Am Yisrael chai. I am still alive, alive, alive. And then again, really, really digging into where they are and who's singing this song and what country is being represented. Am Yisrael chai, right? On the stage, live TV across Europe, Ofra Haza is singing Am Yisrael chai. The nation of Israel lives. Ze hashir shesaba shar etmol le'aba vehayom ani, right? Repeats the same thing here. Let's move on. Homim yamai, and then the chorus in the background, the background singers sing chai chai, uleilotai. Homim yamai uleilotai. Homim, many, okay? Many are the what? Yamai, many are my days. Uleilotai, and my nights. Chai chai. Uvishamai amud ha'esh od kam. Uvishamai. Uvishamai, uvishamai, ubashamayim shali. And in my sky, okay, ubishamayim shali turns into uvishamai, because we want to have that I ending at the end of words. Amud ha'esh od kam. Amud ha'esh. Again, those of you with a strong Jewish educational background, bells should be ringing when you hear Amud ha'esh. Amud ha'esh, pillar of fire, right? This was the pillar of fire that followed that followed Moses and the Israelites in the wilderness to keep them safe. Amud Ha'esh. Amud Ha'esh is also the name of a very famous documentary here in Israel that chronicles the history of Zionism. They just released a version in color. It's all in Hebrew, but you can watch it on YouTube with subtitles. It's a very powerful, albeit slightly old, documentary chronicling Zionism from the 1900s up until, 19th century, up until after the formation of the state of Israel. So again, and in my sky, a pillar of fire, od kam, still stands. Kam, gets up, right? Again, this song is being performed in Hebrew. Yes, there's translations that have been sent out to crowds before this live performance. It will go on to be recorded, by the way, in multiple languages around the world. But this is still being sung original. This is a new song. That's one of the other requirements of Eurovision. It has to be a song penned especially for Eurovision. This is what they're singing to millions of people around the world. Uvishamai amud ha'esh od kam. Average person in Europe listening to Amud Ha'esh isn't necessarily going to know it. They may know Pillar of Fire, but from the Bible, but Amud Ha'esh in Hebrew, it's really speaking to the local audience here in Israel and how proud it is that we can stand on a global stage together. Okay, and in my sky, a pillar of fire still stands. Ashir blidai, chai chai efros yadai. Ashir blidai. Ashir, I will sing, or I shall sing. I shall sing bli dai, without stopping. Bli, without, dai, enough. Okay, I shall sing endlessly. I'll translate that as bli dai, without stopping. Efros yadai. Okay, efros yadai. Efros, lifros is to spread. Usually we talk about lifros knafaim, to spread wings. In this case, we're saying efros yadai, I will spread out my hands. Leyedidai asher me'ever yam. Leyedidai, leyedidim sheli, to my friends. Asher me'ever yam. Asher, that or which. In this case, whom. Me'ever yam. In modern Hebrew, non-lyrical Hebrew like this, we would say me'ever layam, beyond the sea. This is the same thing. Me'ever yam, me'ever layam. We would say in everyday Hebrew, beyond the sea, whom are beyond the sea, meaning who are abroad, away from us. Okay. Sounding like a very Zionist song here being sung, right? I'll spread out my hands and sing endlessly to my friends, meaning also relatives across the sea, meaning Jews still living around the world. And then it repeats the chorus. Ani sho'el u'mitpalel, tov shelo avda ota tikva, chai chai chai. And here's the last bit of the song before it repeats again the chorus and finishes. Az ko lechai lechol orchai. Az ko lechai is a very fancy lyrical way again to say lechaim, az lechaim. So here's to life. As ko, as then, ko up till now, lechai, to being alive. So here's to life. Lechol orchai, to all of my guests, orchim sheli. Lechol, to all my guests. Ulevanai hamivakshim lachzor. Okay, it's repeating what we heard in the previous verse. It's a very classic style of ancient and modern poetry in Hebrew, that you repeat the same idea in slightly different words in corresponding verses. Ulevanai hamivakshim lachzor. Ulevanai uleavanim sheli, and to my sons, to my children. Hamivakshim lachzor. Really powerful. Hamivakshim. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, that ha can often take the place of she at the beginning of words, meaning that. We use it before verbs that can also be read as participles. So this says mivakesh. Livakesh means to request or to ask for. Mivakshim is the plural in the present tense. Ulivanai hamivakshim lachzor. And to my children whom are asking lachzor, to return. Okay. And then the chorus goes again. Really powerful words that when you read it like this, you can start to get what Ehud Manor and Ofra Haza singing this were trying to say, albeit in 3 minutes, in a very pop, upbeat song. But when you read the lyrics, it gets a little bit more deep. We're talking about Tov Shalo Avda Od HaTikva. It's good that the hope is not yet lost. Amud Ha'esh, Ulivanai Hamivakshim Lachzor, and to our sons, to our children, to my children who are requesting to return. Is it returning from diaspora? Is it returning from, being murdered in the Shoah? It's left open enough for us as the Hebrew listeners to hear. Okay, I'm going to stop this and share with you the live performance from YouTube. I'm going to hopefully be able to show you the lyrics at the same time in Hebrew in the transliteration by share screening. Apologies in advance if I don't get it right, but at the very least, you'll be able to hear the song. You'll have the lyrics in front of you soon enough. So let me make sure I can do that. Yuval, if you're on the call, can you optimize that I can share sound? I think it's not working at the moment, but I'd appreciate if you can fix that. Or I'm going to try as well. Video settings. Sorry, folks, just making sure that there can be audio with this. Share screen. Okay, just making sure I can do that. Okay, let me just make sure that I can as we're doing this. Computer, audio, video. See if that worked. Just 1 second, folks. No, it's not what I wanted. Okay, let me see if I can move this around so you can see it. Mini player. Yes. No. Just 1 second. Okay. Okay. I am. Try it one more way, folks, and then we're going to listen to it, maybe not with the words in front of it, but nonetheless important to listen to. Advanced sharing options. Let's try again. Okay, just 1 second. All right, I'm just going to play share. Okay. All right, let's see if you, I hope you can hear this, folks. If not, we still have all the lyrics to go to of 2 more songs. So I see you. Hmm. Okay, I don't think you're able to hear it. I apologize for the technical part of that. Um, but that's okay because you get to listen to it on your own and you'll have the lyric in front of you to listen. We're gonna go through one more song as we have time, but you're gonna get a bonus song in the lyrics in the spreadsheet that we have for this week. But listen to that song again, and I just want to show quickly the screenshot from it. So again, the rules are 3 minutes. At this point, there was a live orchestration. It was also another Israeli musician, Nancy Brandes being the conductor, Ofra Haza with backup singers and performers. Note again, this is 1983 Munich. What they're wearing is not by coincidence. Their costumes for both Ofra and the background singers was designed by a famous Israeli designer, Doreen Frankfurter. She picked yellow for a reason, right? They wanted to further emphasize Am Yisrael Chai on a global stage. Okay, I'm gonna do one last song with you, and then there's this bonus song in these list that I gave you for today. So you can not only go through the lyrics together by yourself, but also follow along and listen to these songs as well. You probably recognize a lot of these too. All right, let me just share my screen again. Okay, there we go. Sharing screen. Okay, the next song we were going to do is Kan. This is from 1991. You're going to do this one on your own. So it's very similar in language to it's very similar in language to Chai, so you'll be able to follow along very easily. But again, another classic example of how do we bridge being a nation like everyone else, as well as Jewish state with our own traditions. So with that, I very much encourage you to sing along with you. It's also written by a very famous songwriter in Israel, Uzi Chitman. Very easy to follow along with. But we're going to do one last one together from the year prior to Chai, 1982. 1982 is sung. The song is called Hora, Hora, like the song, like the dance. It was performed by Avi Toledano. Avi Toledano was also a prolific singer and songwriter at the time. He teamed up with someone we've spoken about in the last year who passed away, unfortunately, Yoram Daharlev. And again, another classic Israeli singer, songwriter who composed some of the most important songs in Israeli culture. Again, combining secular and Jewish thought together, just like our other song by Ehud Manor, so is this one, Hora 1982, very upbeat song. It also comes up very high. By the way, Chai came in second place in 1983. It lost by 6 points. Unfortunately, those 6 points were awarded by Israel itself to another country that was leading in the contest. So it was quite funny. Anyways, Hora comes in third. It was actually the first place was tied this year, 1982. Hora came in right afterwards. Anyways, let's get to Hora. Different, still talking very Jewishly, very Zionist, but a different type of sound to the lyrics. And you'll hear a very different meter and type of vocabulary here. Od mazhiv hasadeh shazavnu az. Very, very lyrical, very evocative and descriptive here. Od mazhiv hasadeh. Od, still. Mazhiv. Mazhiv is a verb coming from the word zahav, gold. Mazhiv, to cause, to make something golden. What's being made golden? Hasadeh, the field. She'azavnu az, which we abandoned or which we left at some time ago, right? So the field which we left is still golden. Okay, the field which we left is still golden. Od haaretz noset yevola. Haaretz, the land, but again, we've talked about this before. Whenever you hear haaretz in Hebrew, meaning the land, it's always referring to Eretz Israel, the land of Israel. Okay, so the land, meaning the land of Israel, od noset yevola, the land of Israel, or the land still carries its produce, right? It still is filled with abundance. The land is still carrying its produce, right? Its fruits and vegetables, its bounty is another way to translate yevola. It's yevola hayevul shel haaretz, its bounty. Ve'od yafim hem halelot bichna'an. Ve'od yafim, and the nights are still beautiful. Ve'od yafim, and still are beautiful, are the nights, hem halelot bichna'an, in Canaan, right? It's paralleling haaretz. So the land of Israel, also referring to Canaan, and how beautiful are the nights still in Canaan? Terem hashemesh ola. Before, terem is a fancy way to say lifnei, terem before, prior. Hashemesh, the sun, ola, rises. Before the sun rises. Okay, not only beautiful words in and of themselves, very much focused about Israel. Right? I pick songs that are specifically about talking about the pride in Israel, being Israeli. There are lots of Eurovision songs that are about all sorts of other things and very generic sounding, and Israel's no less accountable for that. But then you have some of these classic Israeli songs that were also sung on a global stage with, again, in Hebrew. These songs were sung in Hebrew with these lyrics, talking about the land of Israel that we had to leave and now are still full of abundance and still a beautiful place to be. Okay. Od rakevet chotza sham pardes yarok. Od rakevet, the train, still what? Chotza, crosses. Sham pardes yarok, the green pardes, orchard over there, or garden. Pardes can be garden, orchard, plantation, a large place with lots of groves of plants. Grove is another way to do it, to translate it. Chasida od rogaat me'al. A stork. Chasida is a stork, as in a bird. Od rogaat still relaxes above. A stork still relaxes, is calm above. Remember, because Israel sits on one of the major migratory routes between Europe and Africa. So lots of birds coming over that don't necessarily settle here, but a bird flying over, right? Nature is still happening. This land is still here. Excuse me. Oh. Sorry, just a second. Okay. Ve'od nisa ha'arafel ba'emek. Okay, and ve'od nisa, and still, we have that word od again, still, nisa, we had that verb before, nisaot la'or, right? Nisa ha'arafel ba'emek, the arafel, the fog. Nisa is carried ba'emek, in the valley. And the fog still rises, or is carried, or hovers above the valley, right? Ha'emek here, we have lots of amakim in Israel, valleys. This is probably referring to Emek Yisrael, the Jezreel Valley in the north, which was the epicenter of a lot of the Zionist pioneering, where kibbutzim were born, a very important and agriculturally lush part of Israel, still to this day. Okay, and the fog still rises above the valley, ben hazricha vehatal, between ben hazricha, the dawn, the sun rising, vehatal, tal, dew, D-E-W, between the sunrise and the dew. Okay, again, really beautiful words describing the land of Israel and our connection to it. Okay, and here comes the chorus, v'gam ha-hora, and the hora too, and also the hora. Ahi imahe, right? It's very cute. Ahi imahe, the one, he is referring to hora, which is feminine. He normally means she, but it can also mean it, or in this case, that one with the hey, the one that begins with the hey, or the one that you sing hey as you dance it. The one with the hey. Hola od oleh, its voice, the dance's voice. Od oleh still rises. Its voice still rises. Kola lo nadam, its voice is not silenced. Its voice is not silenced or dimmed. Ken gama hora, yes, the hora too. Ahi imahe, the one with the hey. Shira mimale libi leolam. Shira mimale, shira can mean both a song but also a poem. Shira mimale, the song or a song fills mimale libi, my heart, halev sheli libi, leolam, forever. A song fills my heart forever. Okay. Last chorus, and then it repeats the last verse rather, and then it repeats the chorus. And then I'm going to stop and take questions. Od shatim ananim al batei ha'ir. Od shatim, so od still, shatim, sail. Lashut is to sail. So what sails? Ananim al batei ha'ir. Ananim, clouds. Al batei ha'ir, on the houses of the city. So the clouds still sail across the city's houses. Okay, so we've gone out of the fields now. We're now in a city. We're now in an ir, a city. Before we were in the sadot, in the fields, or in the emek, the valley. Now we're in a city. Od shatim ananim al batei ha'ir. The clouds still sail across the city's houses. Those of you who live near the coast in Israel, if you've spent time in the coast, you know that clouds come in from the north and the west. The west is the Mediterranean, and they come and they hover over, depending where you are in the country, especially in the center of the country, like in Tel Aviv and Netanya, also in the north in Haifa. They literally do sail across, the clouds sail across the city, the tops of the houses. Vehayam melatef et achol. Beautiful language. And the sea, vehayam, milatef. Milatef is to pat or to caress or to, it's not just to touch, it's really to pat or caress. Caresses etachol, the sand. Chol is sand. And the sea caresses the sand. Ve'od nishma ech balvavot poem lo zemer yashan umachol. And still, nishma, will hear. Ech balvavot poem lo. How, and still will hear in our heart, how in our hearts beats something. And so we'll hear in our hearts the beating of what? What's still in our hearts beating? Zemer yashan umachol. Zemer, song. Yashan, old. An old song. And machol, dance. Right? The hora. And then it goes back to Gama hora ahi mahe. Okay. Different approach than we saw with Chai, but still very much Zionist. Still very much talking about the land is still there, our connection is still there, our adoration of it is still there. We're still connected to it with this song and dance that we're performing on the stage. And in this case, Harrogate in the UK in 1982. Hora comes in for second place. Okay, I'm gonna stop here, take any questions you have. Apologies for the audio, but you'll get all of the song lyrics that we just did, along with a bonus song that you can listen to and the links for all the songs to listen to on your own. Okay, Q&A, let's look at it. Okay, today's Lag BaOmer, as we said, Dina, thank you for reminding again. What kind of food is eaten on Lag BaOmer? Great question, Dina. There are no specific traditions. One of them, because it's a campfire, is often to wrap onions and potatoes separately in tinfoil and throw it into the fire. And when the fire is done, to eat it. That's a very popular one. It's a campfire, so also marshmallows are entirely appropriate. There are now good vegan marshmallows in Israel, kosher vegan marshmallows. It was very hard to find for a long time, at least decent ones to eat. But otherwise, there's nothing necessarily traditional other than that. By the way, in Israel, as much as it is traditional to have campfires, the country and local municipalities are really clamping down on having open fires, owing to it being warm out and the potential of fires spreading. So you won't see as many, hopefully you won't see as many campfires. However, if you are in Israel, I highly suggest closing your windows for the next day or so, because otherwise your house will smell like a campfire. So be careful about that. Okay. How did Israel get into Eurovision if not part of Europe? Great question. So like I said, Israel is part of the European Broadcasting Union, so it has the right to participate. It didn't for many years. And what's interesting, and we talk about how important these songs are, because again, if Israel wins, it hosts a global event in Israel, and it did 3 times, right? Twice in Jerusalem, once in Tel Aviv. The last time was 2019. It's a big deal. It's a huge tourist attraction. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, if they don't see the performance live, still come to the host country to celebrate this big contest. It's also a form of cultural diplomacy. We talk about diplomacy as being, backroomed with people in suits and very distanced from people. Cultural diplomacy is no less important. The brands that we regularly buy and consume are often attached to a country, right? When we talk about Sweden, we think about IKEA, as we say in this country, IKEA or H&M. So it's important to make those connections between a song that's being performed by a country, either in its native language or not, and where it's coming from. And each country is introduced by a small digital postcard that has pictures from that country as well. So it's all connected in this friendly competition among countries, but also to display some patriotism as well. Israel also had a lot of Israeli singers representing other countries, because for a long time you didn't have to be a national of a country in order to participate. And in the 50s and 60s, some of Israel's classic singers were representing other countries. Esther Ofarim was performing on behalf of, I think it was Switzerland for a couple years, and won pretty high. Think about this also, folks, those of you who are from the United States, and you know in the 60s and 70s in the West Village in New York City, Cafe Finjan, right? That was a cafe slash bar slash performance venue that Israelis, the recently created country, but they were Israeli expats living there and performing Israeli songs, folk songs, Jewish folk songs for a large audience that caught the attention of people from around the world. Harry Belafonte, for example, a famous musician who just passed away a few weeks ago, performed Israeli folk songs, not just Jewish folk songs, but Israeli folk songs, because they caught on. This importance of cultural diplomacy can't be lost on us, no matter how cynical we are about how the rest of the world treats us or thinks about us, by the way, as a joke, but it's not a joke. This is the one time of year in Israel where Israelis, left wing and right wing, religious, secular, male, female, whomever, whenever Israel gets a low points or no points from another country, will scream out at the TV, anti-Semites. It's a joke, but it's part of understanding how do we fit into this larger world? We can have some fun as well doing it. And music and culture is a great way to reconnect with people as well. What do I think of this year's entry? So this year is Noah Kirel. Those of you who don't know the name Noah Kirel, your neighbors, your kids, your grandkids will know the name Noah Kirel. She is one of the most, if not the most popular singer in Israel right now. The song that she picked is being sung in English. Again, songs don't have to deal directly with the country it's representing. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they over-represent and get a little too controversial in that respect. This song is okay. I'm not a huge fan of it in that it sounds like every other song, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't in trying to compete. It will place high. It's not favored to win, but it will place certainly in the top 10, if maybe even the top 5. But it's an okay song. It would have been nice if Noah Kirel sang in Hebrew, but this is a global stage. Things have changed where you don't have to sing in English in order to win, but there are some other considerations there. What is the internet service Israelis use? We have lots of different services, Anita. A little off topic for this class, but great question. I will happily answer that offline. We asked again last week for links and didn't get them. I apologize for that. If you are on this live chat, if you are live on Zoom, you should be signed up through Zoom for this, in which case you are getting emails and the spreadsheet and the links for it. If you are not, you have 2 different ways to solve this. Number 1, all of the playlists, all of the links will be uploaded to YouTube within 1 to 2 days of this class. So if you don't get an email, please check YouTube and our playlists there, youtube.com. Otherwise, please write us at Hebrew, HEBREW at nbn.org.il. You'll get all of the, you'll be in direct touch with our staff at Nefesh B'Nefesh to get that. Apologies if you aren't getting it. Rochelle, can you say more about the word nadam? Is the root of the word nadam dom? Great question, Rochelle. Nadam comes from dumia or dmama, silence or quiet. We talked about this the other week about Yom HaZikaron, that on Yom HaZikaron, we have 2 different sfirot dumia, a siren sfira of dumia, silence, meaning that we are called to stand in attention at silence. Okay. Sarah, you mentioned that the performers were yellow. What does yellow represent? Sorry if that was, I wasn't more direct with that. Sarah, it was directly referring to the yellow Star of David badges that Jews in the Holocaust had to wear. That's exactly what it was referring to. That's why they chose to, the designers and the stage crew decided that the Israeli team would wear yellow on stage at Munich. Dina, what's the name of the song in 2018 that won? Remember, you win 1 year, you host the next year. In 2018, Netta Barzilai won with the song Toy. Very popular song. Did Israel ask for better security for the Munich Eurovision that we got at the Munich Olympics? Did we ask for the right to protect our own participants? Great question, Mary. So this is the 50th anniversary of Israel participating in Eurovision. 1973 was the first time. Ilanit was still is a very famous musician. She sang a song called Esham, Somewhere. It's a beautiful song. And that already had heightened security. The story goes, according to online, the audience was asked to sit down instead of stand up and applauding because they might be feared as a terrorist threat. So the security was always there for the Israeli team once they started performing. Israel was the first non-European country to participate in Eurovision. The only times it has not performed, and this answers a question Richard has farther down, the only times Israel has not performed is because it intercedes with a holiday. Oftentimes it falls the same time of year as Yom HaZikaron or Yom HaAtzmaut, in which case Israel would not participate because it would be inappropriate. In the past, it has also potentially interfered with Shavuot, and certain allowances have been made for that. Otherwise, Israel's always performed. It costs quite a lot of money for Israel and any country to perform in it, because it's the whole staging crew, the whole production behind it. But Israel's always performed. The second time Israel won, in 1979, it had the right to host the following year in 1980. It didn't for two reasons. One, it's very expensive to host a Eurovision. It's often why you see the same countries hosting again and again, because it's simply what country can afford it. So Israel couldn't afford in the late 1970s to host 2 years in a row, but also because the year that the date it was scheduled to perform the following year would be Yom HaZikaron, Israel's Memorial Day. They said no. That year it fell to the Netherlands, which placed second in 1979 to host. Okay. But otherwise, Israel always performs. Now it is, because there are so many people who participate, so many countries, there are 2 semifinals. They take place on Tuesday and Thursday this week. And then Saturday night is the grand final. Israel is in the first semifinal, which is tomorrow night. So if Noah Kirel places in the top 10, Israel will be in the grand finale on Saturday night, which starts all of them, because it's taking place in the UK this year. Everything starts at 10 p.m. local time in Israel. You can also watch it on Kan, which is channel 11. Kan is also the name of one of the songs of Israel's entries throughout the year. kan.org.il. It's channel 11 on TV. It's streaming on the internet. It also supposedly is going to be streaming on the Eurovision official channel on YouTube. So for those of you outside of Europe, outside of the European Broadcasting Union, you can also watch as well. Okay, we are over our time. So Darabah, thank you all so much for joining. You will receive all the links for the songs, all the lyrics for the songs that we went through together, so you can feel a little bit more in touch with Israeli culture. Next week, we're going to do a much requested topic, which is how do you spell in Hebrew, and how do you know when 2 letters that sound similar should be spelled with that one versus the other one. Very good questions, a little bit complicated. We're going to make it as simple as possible for you to understand. Until then, toda rabah, thank you all so much, and lehitraot. Take care.